specifically in that last conversation, wilderness areas. And I think the U.S. Forest Service and the BLM have a whole different aspect of what wilderness is than I do in my mind. Commissioner Drew said it's untrammeled by man. The Mount Rose Wilderness Area was made wilderness to keep ski resorts, development, heavy off-road use out of them. It doesn't mean they're not high use. To me, in my mind, wilderness is the top of Jefferson, where if I'm up there and there's 3 other people, that's a congested day. You go to Mount Rose Meadows, it's in the Tahoe Wilderness Area. Heavy, heavy, heavy use. You go to Hunter Creek Canyon, you'll be lucky to get a parking place today in Hunter Creek Canyon. It's a trailhead. And it's within what the U.S. Forest Service calls wilderness. But just because the Forest Service says it's wilderness and it's untrammeled by man, certainly doesn't mean it's unused by man or high use by man. So I understand fully what Commissioner Drew says, but I look at those scenarios of what the Forest Service calls wilderness and their definition of wilderness, and I look at my definition of wilderness and definition of high use. They don't exactly marry up to the Forest Service and BLM definition of wilderness. I am in full agreement that public lands do allow trapping, and it's part of what they are. They're trapping. And to address Commissioner Macbeth, a ban on it, no. I think 24 hours would be a heck of a lot more of a ban on it. I think by saying calendar day really relaxed it. I look at the difference between calendar day and 24 hours. If I have to be someplace within a 24-hour time period, if I'm there at 4:30 today, that means I've got to be there by at least 4 tomorrow, because I'm not going to get it down to the minute, which means I have to be there by 3:30 the next day, which means I need to be there by 3 the following day, and you continue to get that creep. And the thing that I brought up when I originally threw out the calendar day is I might check my traps this morning if I was a trapper. And tomorrow morning I got a breakfast meeting. I can't make it to check my traps, but I can do it after work tomorrow, so I'll go check them after work. But the following day I can't go after work. My kid has a basketball game, so I check them in the morning. But then if I check them in that morning, if it was under 24 hours, I'd have to be back there the next morning. But no, now I can be back there in the evening again. It gave tremendous flexibility and accounted for some of those things you said that were not accounted for. And it is not 23 hours and 59 minutes. Some instances could be 47 hours and 59 minutes. If you checked it at midnight, I mean, I tried to give as much flexibility as I could, and I think there's more flexibility in a calendar day than there is in 48 hours in some instances. It allows for life to continue and flexibility. You start putting a specific time frame on there, you're going to continue to get creep backwards. There's no way around that. So I think that the calendar day afforded flexibility. Commissioner McNinch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Mike, I think some of the things that we all have to deal with, and hindsight's always more clear than looking forward, and I think one of the things that, as a committee chairman, I would have done very differently was demand that this commission establish its understanding of what SB 213 was about, because the legislature sure didn't make it clear to us. And that's one of the biggest things that we've struggled with, because if we don't know exactly what it is we're supposed to deal with, and so that left each one of us coming up with our own interpretation, our own understanding of what it was individually. And I think that hindsight, maybe we should have established that, because certainly they intended for something to happen. The term consideration is in there, but consider what with regards to what? Okay, And so I think we were largely dealing with intent. We never did take action to pick a direction, and maybe we should have. We started down the path of identifying what close proximity meant, what heavily used meant, and what populated meant. But right out of the gate, we started with the populated. We used census maps, and I agree with Commissioner Drew that conversation just didn't seem to get off on the right foot right out of the gate, and it just seemed complicated. So I think we were all left with our own interpretations of what that meant. And so you're seeing some of that reflected in the decisions that were made and some of the recommendations that were brought forward. And you know, it's been intensely difficult that way. And I personally believe that the legislature, there's a reason why the original bill didn't get killed. There's a reason why it didn't stay in its original form. And I think the legislature was asking us to address something, and I don't think it was necessarily consideration. I think that maybe that was a bad term. Maybe they should have said, you need to come back and tell us this, this, and this. That didn't happen. And what I believe will happen, you know, I'm not in tune to the politics, but I'm not on the inside loop on all that stuff. But I personally believe that that they expect us to manage, at least in some respects, conflict. You know, I have my opinion about the humane side of things too, but I definitely believe that they were expecting us to address the conflict that they were hearing about.
Commissioner Bliss.
Thank you, Chairman Rob. First, I want to say I appreciate everybody's efforts in this, everyone in this room, and the committee's efforts and time. It was a lot of time and effort from everybody. I share a lot of the same concerns that Commissioner McBeth stated. Even the one calendar day, with that flexibility that Chairman Rob spoke about, concerns me a little bit. And the reason it does is I think that if a person goes out and sets a trap line and they got to be there, you know, in a lot shorter period of time, that instead of walking a quarter mile to set a trap in a pass, he's going to choose to set that trap closer to a trail or so, just on the edge of it where they can or can't set it. And we could create more of a conflict and more issues by tightening it up that tight. I feel a lot more comfortable with even the idea of a 2 calendar day, because I think if we get too tight on it, we're going to just create more of a problem, and then we'll be going right back down the same road again. That's just my thoughts so far on it.
And I want to address some of those concerns about trappers moving, and you know, the guy has to be there in a calendar day. Maybe I'm tougher than most of the trappers, but the amount I would have to drive from any place in Las Vegas or any place in Reno to get outside that calendar day area to set a trap and be in the 96 hours is very small. It's a difference of 15 minutes. I didn't go to Vegas for 3 days to not drive around. And I don't think I'm excluding any trapping. I don't think I'm excluding any area from trapping. If you want to trap in that area, you have to be there within a calendar day. But if you can't meet that calendar day, stay in your truck for another 15 minutes and get outside that calendar day area and trap, because you're being back in a 96-hour area. And I'm serious. You look at this map and you look at how far you have to drive to get outside that map. Unless you live on one end of Vegas, you know, I'm going to hear the argument here in a minute. I know it's coming. Well, I live on the Henderson side. I want to trap Mount Charleston. That's a personal decision you make, to have to drive across Las Vegas. Drive 15 minutes south of where you live, and you're back out of that 96-hour area. You know, you got to put some personal choices in this too. I'm trying to keep 96 hours statewide for a lot of people, and I believe in 96 hours statewide. And the inconvenience of the small areas that are drawn in this map compared to the rest of the state is so minimal, I can't even believe we're having a discussion that's that big of an issue, because in my mind, it's not. Toughen up a little bit and stay in your truck another 15 minutes.
I feel like I need to find a way to move us forward, and I'm not sure exactly where the commission wants to go.
If we're out of comments, we can go to public comment.
Well, that might be prudent, and if we did that, I would suggest that we take a
Let's take a 15-minute break, and then we'll come back.
Yes.
I understand